Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brockton Symphony Orchestra. And welcome to the East Bridgewater Junior Senior High School. This is our first time performing in this beautiful venue. Thanks to Candace and Alexa Lastly for managing the house today, and to Ray Ponte, Director of Music, for a wonderful welcome and for making us feel so at home. My name is Harry Williams. I'm a member of the board of the Brockton Symphony Orchestra, a volunteer like pretty much everyone involved in this orchestra. And I'll be telling you a little bit about today's concert. I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Harbor One Bank, and all of our sponsors, and you can find them in our program book. I will ask you to help us by turning off your cell phone or other devices that will make noise and take away from the concert. We want to offer a special welcome to seniors from the Council on Aging in Abington, Bridgewater, Brockton, Canton, Easton, Norton, Sharon, and Stoughton. We also want to offer a special happy birthday wish to Meta Lyons, who's here in our audience to celebrate her 96th birthday. Happy birthday, Meta. A special request, right up there with turning off your devices, is that should you need to leave the auditorium before the intermission or before the end, leave at the end of a movement, or preferably at the end of one of the pieces. It's amazing how the smallest stirring or sounds can be so disruptive when we're listening to classical music. So that helps us to be courteous to our fellow listeners. A few things you can do during intermission today. You can get some tickets for a premiere of our new Chamber Pops concert, Saturday, May 18th at 2 p.m. You won't want to miss this fun, upbeat concert featuring popular music, show tunes, film music, lighter classics, and American favorites. All proceeds will help the Brockton Symphony continue to bring beautiful music in beautiful venues like this for you and your friends. Tickets will be $25, general admission, 18 and under free. You can purchase tickets today. It's Saturday, May 18th at 2 p.m. It's at the Christ Congregational Church at 1350 Pleasant Street in beautiful downtown Brockton. Also during the intermission, you can sign up for our mailing list for our 2019-2020 brochure, which we will send to you in late August. You can sign up for our email newsletter, The Fanfare, and get that regularly. And you can donate to the symphony. You may not realize that ticket sales provide less than a third of the cost of this concert. So your tax-deductible donation will help keep the symphony alive and well. As we are an all-volunteer organization, 100% of your donation helps us put on concerts. Please welcome concertmaster Christina Nilsson as we tune the orchestra. Christina? Please help me welcome Maestro James Orens.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, thank you very much. Participatory audience. This is going to be great. If you look at your printed program, which I just had a look at myself, it appears that the intermission would come now. That's a little soon. The truth of the matter is that we send our programs to the printer kind of early, and when we were thinking about how to approach this program in its entirety, we realized we'd had so many requests for some insight into Symphonie Fantastique that we decided to include a brief lecture demonstration to help you follow the unifying thread through this phenomenal symphony orchestra. But before we do proceed, the board has asked me to take this opportunity and publicly acknowledge several beloved members of our Brockton Symphony family. The following 3 individuals are retiring at the end of this concert season. Please stand as I call your names. Robin Cruz, Brian Cruz, and Harry Williams. Harry Williams. There he is. Robin first performed with the Brockton Symphony on December 2nd, 2007. She's a longtime member of our cello section. Most of you probably are unaware that she's a double threat. She's also a gifted violist, and she often lends her musical and moral support to our core member violists during early series, that's easy for me to say, early series rehearsals, switching to cello as we approach the dress rehearsal and the concert. And inspired by his wife's tremendous enthusiasm for her adopted symphony family, Brian subsequently joined us and first performed as a member of our cello section October 25th, 2009. I wasn't born yet. Together, Robin and Brian are the quintessential dynamic duo, sharing their infectious love of symphonic music and generosity of spirit with all who are fortunate to know them and to hear them play in our symphonic and chamber music concerts. With their departure, they will leave an immense hole in our cello section and in our hearts. May they find great happiness among family, friends, and like-minded musicians in their new home in upstate New York. Harry Williams, well-known Brockton figure, through his leadership role at the Brockton Public Library, has been the silver-toned voice of the Brockton Symphony Orchestra for many years, performing yeoman duty on the public address system as master of ceremonies during our live concerts, and serving as voice of the symphony through our public service radio announcements, PSAs, inviting all of you to join our audience over the public airwaves. Among his live performance credits or collaborations with us, he is the narrator in Peter and the Wolf, The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, and Carnival of the Animals. As congenial and informative in person as he is on the radio, Harry has been an integral member of our symphony family for many years. His MC presence reminds us of the legendary William Pierce and Ron Della Chiesa, radio announcers for the Boston Symphony and the Boston Pops. It's difficult to imagine anyone filling Harry's shoes and maturing to his iconic status in this ultra-critical symphony role. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in wishing Robin, Brian, and Harry good health and great joy in their new lives beyond the Brockton Symphony. So, official good afternoon. Welcome to Awakening Spring, the French Connection. This is actually the first year in recent memory we've been blessed with this spectacular transition from winter to spring via temperatures in the 50s and 70s and incredibly vibrant blossoming flowers and trees. Thank you. We're delighted to perform for you in this gorgeous space. By the way, I can't see you at all, but it looks like there are like 500, which is fantastic. Thanks for coming out today. We're delighted to perform for you in this gorgeous space hosted by our friends here at East Bridgewater High School. As we instantly discovered the other day, this is a phenomenal facility, worthy of the great professional orchestras, opera companies, and theaters. Ray Ponte, head of the music department, has been enormously helpful and made us feel welcome on our maiden voyage in this beautiful facility. Thank you, Ray and colleagues. Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique, also titled Episode in the Life of an Artist, which has a sequel starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, just kidding. But it does have a sequel, L'Eglio, or The Return to Life. It will be our featured work on the second half of the program, and this iconic work revolutionized 19th century so-called romantic symphonies Through Berlioz' expansion of the sheer size of the orchestra, musical color palette, including new orchestration techniques, expanded instrumentation with instrumental double. I mean, look at how many musicians we have up here. 2 harps, 6 percussionists we had earlier today, and 4 bassoonists, 4 timpanists at one point. The dynamic range goes from super soft to, well, super loud. And this is a great facility for this because you will hear the softs very clearly, but you will not be injured by the louds. This symphony gets pretty intense. He expanded the format of the symphony to 5 movements. Yes, I know Beethoven wrote the Pastoral Symphony, but Berlioz really put his name to this. And his own unique version of tone painting, as this magnum opus follows a program, a story depicting the tale of a young artist completely obsessed with the object of his desire, his failed attempt at suicide by poisoning, and the dreams and hallucinations which result in a bizarre and most graphic adventure. It's still G-rated, but. How many of you have never heard this symphony? Ooh, only a few. Okay, cool. Welcome. You're gonna love it. So we're giving you a peek into the inner life of this symphony by highlighting what I refer to as the unifying thread. It gives balance and a cohesiveness to the immense structure of this piece, at least immense for his time. Berlioz, of course, didn't know Mahler yet. Do you know what an idée fixe is? Anybody heard of the idée fixe, a fixed idea? Or leitmotif, like the Wagner operas? Guess not, so it's a good thing we're doing this. Berlioz's thematic evolution of the artist's love interest, which could be spelled obsession, is very much, as I said, like Wagner's treatment of characterization and leitmotif. His variations describe the character's evolution from a dreamy, ethereal ideal to the ultimate grotesque object of his hallucination in the grand finale. If you're not familiar with the specifics, I turn your attention, not at this moment, but maybe during intermission, to the program notes, which will fill you in. And now, for the demonstration part, I told the orchestra it's a lecture demo, but I really advised them that this is more of a demonstration than a demolition performance. Thank you. My mom thanks you too. The 5 movements are Rêverie, Passion, which is dreams and passions, a ball, Scène au champ, which is seen in the countryside, Marche au supplice, which is a march to the scaffold, and Songe d'une nuit du sabbat, the witch's Sabbath. Actually, that's how it's translated in the score, but literally it means the dream of the witch's Sabbath. Now, when we talk about program music, sometimes a program is very literal, from note to note or measure to measure, phrase to phrase, description. In this case, if you knew the history, which we're about to tell you, you would realize that this is not a literal depiction, note by note, movement by movement. And the reason I say that is Berlioz wrote the program for his premiere performance, and according to that, the artist takes the poison right before the march to the scaffold. In the march to the scaffold, he is tried, convicted for murdering his love interest because she just didn't go for that relationship. I could understand that, I guess. But then Berlioz said afterwards that actually the artist takes the poison before the first movement. Aha, so here's our introduction. Rêverie, passion. Reveries are like daydreams when you get lost in thought, and so that allows us to play what we refer to as rubato, quasi-improvisatory, not strictly in tempo. Excerpt number 1. Once upon a time, So you see how he sets the mood. And you may not have noticed, but the strings here have little things clipped to the bridge. They're called mutes. You may be familiar with brass mutes like trumpet or whatever, but actually this causes the instrument to produce a really ethereal, filmy kind of sound and set the mood. Exactly. I can tell she likes it already. Okay. So now we present the idée fixe, the theme which describes his love interest, the artist's love interest. First, we'll play it for you, just the flute and violins, the first iteration which occurs during what we call the exposition of the symphony. Beautiful. It goes on and develops. Now we'll play it with the accompaniment as Berlioz wrote it in the symphony. This beginning to make sense to you? Something to follow. The third excerpt is the idée fixe with the accompaniment, followed by now the fourth, where we move on to the idée fixe, where it's repeated. In the development section, composers take small segments of music, they chop them, and they repeat them faster and faster or closer together to create more tension. So here we have a segment of this theme in the viola, cello, and bass. And now we have the idée fixe triumphant, a major key, and featuring the cornets and violas. And Berlioz was one of the few symphony composers to actually include cornet as opposed to trumpet. He has cornets and trumpets. The trumpets, especially in the French orchestration, are very bright, staccato, and the cornets have a different, what we call bore, the shape of the tubing. It's conical, and it makes it sound much more mellow. So listen carefully for cornets and violas. So Berlioz takes this theme, takes little pieces of it, and in the end, he puts it all back together again. You'll hear that in the entire the complete performance of the first movement. But we thought we'd play the ending, because again, he changes the character of this idée fixe. At the very end, he plays slowly, softly, and he has sort of a religious awakening at the end of the first movement. You'll recognize that feeling. You may not know why, but we'll tell you why. The reason is he uses what we refer to as a plagal cadence. Chord number 4, going back to chord number 1, 4, 1. If you've ever been to a church or watched television and seen a church service, you'll know the feeling instantly, and this is the reason why. Does that chord structure sound familiar to you from your hymns? No? Are you there? Hi. Okay, so we go to the second movement, en ball, which means a ball. How unusual. Very close in English and French. And the scene is elegant and festive and celebratory. It features not one but 2 harps over here on your right, stage left, and also solo cornet later on, again for the bore and that tone quality, the conical bore. Now I have to tell you that Berlioz added the cornet part, which you'll hear in the complete performance, later on after the premiere. And actually, my score is a reprint of the Breitkopf und Härtel, which for many years was the standard source. And the editors had the temerity to say, well, Berlioz added this to the symphony, but we think you should omit it. Conductors, don't bother to play it. Well, actually, in tribute to Berlioz and this wonderful cornet solo and our principal trumpet, who is playing cornet today, Wayne King, when we do the complete performance, we will include the cornet. But for now, just listen to the harps. You're so quiet. It's really okay to applaud if you liked it. Now we'll show you how he sets this dreamy mood at the beginning of the ball, and then suddenly it builds not to a crescendo. A crescendo is a build-up. It's not the object of the build-up. And we come to this huge climax, a dreamy, portentous atmosphere. once again, it's showing that it's on. There we go. The idée fixe is now transformed to triple meter versus duple meter. When it first came in, we counted 1, 2, 1, 2. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Same theme, different meter, different feel. Very elegant, dreamy, slow waltz feel, featuring flutes, oboe, and clarinet. Now we move to the third movement, Scène au champ, which is the scene in the countryside. And in the beginning, you will see during the concert performance in the second half that we're actually going to have our principal oboe come off the stage and go off into the wings over here. And he and our English horn player will play this wonderful duet. Berlioz refers to it as the Rance de Vache, which typically was the call of the herdsmen to their cows across great distances in fields. Again, the oboe will be off stage. Our performers today will be Melanie Hain on English horn and Mark Finkelstein on oboe. For now, we keep them in the orchestra. And now we have the idée fixe in 6. That rhymes. 6 is known in music as double triple meter. So we had duple meter, we had triple meter, and now we have double triple meter. In this case, we also have variations which include the clarinet playing in inversion. So instead of dee-dom, dee-dom, it goes upside down the other way, and also flute and clarinet duet. So now we have the English horn solo. Her buddy, I don't know, maybe he went out for a drink or something or other. She plays by herself at the end, but alternating back and forth with our four, count them four. Raise your hands back there, please. Four timpanists. This is a special event for us and for them. So we'll do two iterations. The lone herdswoman, that is correct in today's day and age, and also the echo of thunder rolling across the hills. Berlioz makes an interesting connection here because the rolling of the thunder presages the march to the scaffold. The timpani take over, two timpani at the beginning of the fourth movement. Now this isn't just any scaffold. He's not spackling and he's not painting this artist. He's about to have his head chopped off for murdering the love of his life. Seems like a fit punishment. So here we have the echoes of movement 3, the beginning of the death march. In the tutti section, everybody together, we begin with a very creepy, queasy feeling building up to a preview of the strike of the guillotine blade. I'm improvising. Let's see. So from here we go to victory, justice, revenge, retribution, characterized by these very tight French dotted rhythms. Even though we can look at music and interpret the rhythms literally, there are also certain cultural and historic conventions. And in this case, the French play very bright, very nasal, and very tight. Da-da-da-da-da-da. These people are very happy that this is coming to this conclusion. So, from rehearsal 58 to the end, mark that in your scores, please. We have the tutti orchestra, everybody together, and then clarinet solo, which represents this young man's last vision of his love, right before they take his head off. And we find this to be a very graphic depiction. As the blade falls, Berlioz actually illustrates the bouncing of the skull down the stairs into a basket, and the crowd goes wild. Victory. As if that weren't enough. The dream continues, and now he dreams of a witch's Sabbath. Foggy, creepy, queasy, uneasy atmosphere, scurrying and Halloweenish. Note in particular the sardonic laughter of the brass as they represent the witches. And now, featuring an unsung hero of the Brockton Symphony Orchestra, Jeff Lichtenstein, who's been in the orchestra for Lichtenstein or Steen? Do you know how to pronounce your name?
Lichtenstein or Steen?
I was right, Lichtenstein. Are you from Liechtenstein? Never mind. Okay, so he's been in the orchestra for 40 years now. 40 years. I single him out for 3 reasons. Number one, he's been in the orchestra for 40 years. But also, he joined the orchestra as a student, so this is an example of how our educational initiative encourages people to take up symphonic instruments and then contribute to the ensemble community. It's really a testimony to the Brockton Symphony's educational mission. He, by himself, will demonstrate the polite version of the Idée fixe in the 5th movement. Very cool. Besides, how often you get to hear the second clarinet play a solo? I mean, this is fantastic. Okay, now we have another version where tutti, everybody plays the Idée fixe in double, triple meter, 6/8. It's warped, it's twisted, it's garishly ornamented. This witch's dance featuring the E-flat clarinet, the high creepy clarinet, piccolo and the duet, and the bassoons ripping arpeggios in unison. Auditions will be held in the fall, but thank you. Cool. And now, anyone here know what the Dies Irae means? Dies Irae theme? In the Catholic funeral mass, they speak of Dies Illa, Dies Irae. The Illa being judgment and the Irae being wrath. So we're talking about the Day of Judgment, Day of Wrath, which he's included in this witches' dance. We feature here chimes, bassoons, tuba, church bells intoning the call to Mass. So now we have a combination. This is a really brilliant compositional juxtaposition that Berlioz creates between the Dies Irae and the witches' gigue, or round dance. Victorious, in a major key. One more excerpt. If that makes you happy, what are you going to do during the 50 minutes of the symphony in the second half? Oh, you heard about the refreshments in the cafeteria. I see. You'll be the first in line. And I wanted to say the following intermission will return with this unabridged performance of the Symphonie Fantastique. The last excerpt, again, tutti, the entire orchestra. We begin with violins and violas playing, as we refer to this as collegno battuto. Collegno means with the wood of the bow. Battuto, not written in the score but implied, is striking, yes, striking the strings with the wood of the bow. Unusual technique for that, and it's supposed to represent like skeletons and so on, so it's skeletonish, is that a word? Plus, the woodman's cellos playing the witch's gigue. Use your imagination. Berlioz says it's okay. So we have the main thematic elements combined in a wild frenzy. Is that redundant? It is redundant. In a frenzy. To triumphant ending and, well, I guess it's triumphant at least from the witch's point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, the last excerpt.
In just a moment, we'll be tuning again for the exciting second half of this concert. We want to invite you, after that fifth movement, to join us for a reception to honor Torben for his 12 years as chairman of our board of directors. I'm pleased to find that he will still perform with the orchestra, but Torben has been the captain of this ship for quite a long time, and as I say, this is a volunteer organization. These folks you're watching give so much. I, for one, appreciate it. We will have the reception in the cafeteria, so after that movement, down here to your left, on my right, there's some big doors. If you go through them and turn right, the cafeteria is right around the corner. Enjoy the concert.
Since he doesn't have a reserve parachute with him, give him a second to clear it out and we'll start over by your lead. He's played it so beautifully in the rehearsal. Give it another try. Is it a French oboe? It is? Which model? It's a Louvet. Louvet or Louvet? Yes, Louvet. Yes. By your leave, Shepherd. Sorry, Hartman.
Thank you.